Okay, I pressed the right button this time, I swear. Uh, Welcome back to John Talks. Last time on John Talks, bam, 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 we talked about change while I did some mining. Today I'm trying to change my wheat, this section of my wheat farm over to carrots on Hypixel Skyblock. But, oh, that's kind of loud. Let me turn that down real quick. I'm a professional. Today we're going to be talking about depression and anxiety, and just talk a little bit about that. I think I've dealt with depression and anxiety a lot. I even messed up this, which gave me a lot of anxiety. I actually pushed the start streaming button and streamed for about 40 minutes because I accidentally hit it and I didn't hit record, so I had a bunch of anxiety about that because I was having a deep conversation. And it's weird to have that one-on-one with yourself and then 25 people are watching you. Like, I can kind of separate the idea of like maybe 500 people seeing this video than just them listening to it live, because I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I stumble over my words, and it makes me self-conscious sometimes. um, I've dealt with anxiety a lot in my younger life. When I was like 16, for example, I'd go to a store or Walmart and I would start having panic attacks because I could hear voices behind me and I thought people were staring at me. And I would just internalize that feeling, and over time, it'd get worse and worse. And I would have a panic attack. And I used to take Valium for it, and it helped a little bit, but it was only with time that it got better. Uh, so the reason I want to talk about anxiety and depression is because they can feed into each other, and depression can spawn from big things and small things. It's just not, oh, this big thing happened and now I'm depressed. It could be just, hey, uh, this thing that I wanted to be good at and I put a lot of time into didn't do well, so now I'm a bit down. I think there's different levels of depression. And I think there's different levels of anxiety, and I feel like you can feel them in different waves. Like when my grandfather passed, that was a big hit of depression for me. I think I talked about it in a bunch of these episodes, but basically the feeling I got was like a death taste in my mouth, and I was hearing static all around me, and it just wasn't real to me. And then I got to a very low state in my life, and I didn't really know how to process it. It was the first time I ever lost anybody, and of course the people around me did their best to comfort me, but it didn't help. Because when you lose somebody, time is the only thing that can really help you. And I think depression, like, some people deal with it in an always way, like they're always depressed. There's no middle ground, and they have to be on medication like antidepressants for it. Luckily, I've been able to, just deal with my depression without medication, and it doesn't consume me the way like I've seen it consume others, which I'm very thankful for. I know I've known of some people who've had to be on medication for it, and I've seen people deal with it in personal ways, and it can really affect your friendships and the way you choose to live your life, even the way you try to communicate with people. And it's funny because when you're depressed, you could be like antagonistic and an asshole to people around you. And I've tried to do my best to realize that it's not other people's fault that I'm feeling a certain emotion. So I try my best not to take my emotions out on other people, and it's hard to do sometimes because it's such a natural thing to bring other people down when you feel shitty. But I just don't think that's the answer. Uh, another depressive state I was in a while back, maybe 2 years ago, is I lost an income and I lost a bunch of my friends, and it really brought me down. But grew, I grew from the situation and was able to recover my life and be able to surround myself with people and make new friends. And it's been a good experience. Obviously, it's not easy to lose people you care about, but at the end of the day, like we talked about change, uh, life isn't always certainties. Like, I don't think we're guaranteed to be here today or tomorrow, and I think people in our lives will come and go. And I think we should just appreciate the time we had with them. Like if you love somebody, and I know we've talked about this too on the show, and that person decides they don't love you anymore, and they process that feeling, and then they tell you once they're comfortable, like you're just left alone with those thoughts, and you're overthinking, and you're trying to figure out what did you do wrong. I mean, the real truth is there's nothing you could have done right in the situation because they already made up their mind and they didn't talk to you about it. I think a lot of that's communication. I think a lot of things can be boiled down to improper communication on both people's part. And maybe sometimes you're very open and you're both very open and it still doesn't work out. I've had that happen before too. But what I've learned from that is that it's not just all about a feeling, and it's not just all about what one person wants. And I know it may sound cliche, but if that person is happy, then it doesn't matter if it's with you, because if they are happy in their life, then that's what matters. I've experienced that a few times. I've had to learn to be happy that these other people who aren't in my life are doing good and doing well, and that should just be enough for me. I don't have to be in someone's life for their life to be good, and even though I'm not a part of it, it doesn't mean that my influence wasn't there. You know, like it's not like all those memories are invalid because things happen. It just means you got to move on. It's hard sometimes, especially when you put years into a relationship or a friendship and those things don't work out. But let's get back on topic a little bit. Depression, for me at least, has always come in spurts. Small things can bring me down. More often than not, the small things eat me up more than the big things. And the bigger issues, they just... How do I put this? With me, I'm like a bouncy ball. I've always put it this way. The further I fall, the higher I'll bounce back up. So I don't really stay down for too long. And my mother actually suffers from bipolar disorder, and I wouldn't self-diagnose myself as anything, but my moods do bounce up and down a lot like that, because I'll be happy and I'll be super energetic and I'll be super motivated to do things, and then if something doesn't work out, I'll fall into that depressive state. Like if a video doesn't do well, I'll just scrap the entire series, because I'm like, it's not worth continuing if people don't enjoy it, and I want to make content that people enjoy. And that's something I've had to grow out of too, because like these videos, you know, or this channel, like I was in such a depressive state that I stopped uploading to this gaming content to this channel, even though I really do love doing gaming content. And I stopped that because I didn't think anyone would just want to see me play games, because I didn't really have anyone at the time to play games with. And I thought about, you know, like series like Cuphead or things like Monopoly or Uno that I used to do with people, and I was just demotivated to do it because I didn't think people would want to see it just from my perspective or just from me. And depression can always bring you down to that thing of like, am I enough? And I want to say this in the best way possible. I don't think it's healthy to overthink simple things. I think if you're living your life and you're doing what you enjoy, then the other things about it shouldn't matter. And especially with content creating, I've had to separate myself from the numbers, because it brings me down when something doesn't do well. But I also have to realize that the reason I'm creating now isn't for it being seen. It's just out of the pure joy of creating something new. And it's hard because you obviously want things to do well, but you can't consume yourself with it, because I want this video to do well, even though it's just me talking to you guys. But if it doesn't, then that's okay. I'm not going to stop doing them, because I have this hope that maybe it helps you a little bit. My depression, it's not over, and I don't think it ever will be. I just have learned to manage it better. And I think that's what we all do. We try to cope and manage ourselves. But I sometimes I don't think we deal with the bigger problem of why we're depressed. Like the reason I was depressed a few months back was I wasn't making enough money to keep producing content. So what did I do? I went out and got a job, and now I'm able to produce this content no matter what happens. no matter if a video does well or not, I'll always be able to produce it at the same level because I have a separate income that's always stable. But that being said, we'll talk a little bit more about it, and then I think I'll end this. Feelings like happiness and depression and love, that's what they are. They're not permanent. I think we can always get overwhelmed and consumed with the idea that the problems we're facing right now are the biggest things. But I think if we take a step back and realize that we're only here for a short amount of time, like I've said before, I'm probably only going to live for another 60 years if I'm lucky. I shouldn't over obsess about things I can't control. Sure, life may be shitty at the time, but it doesn't mean your life is always going to be in that place. I think we should always try to grow into the person we want to be. And that's what I'm going to try to keep doing, no matter what happens. And one day I might stop uploading content. And that's going to be a big change for me because I want to start a family one day. And I want to make those building blocks, get it Minecraft, to do it. And when you get those responsibilities, sometimes things like this become less important. I love the people that I met doing this, and I hope to always try to be creative. And maybe I'll do it in different ways in the future. And I hope that I know, like my future self knows, no matter what, we always tried to make people happy. I've always wanted to make content so the person on the other side, the person who could not smile, could just smile, so they could see that life isn't all that bad. That for 10 minutes out of the day, they could just zone out and be happy. I think that's going to do it for today's talk. I know it was a bit weird, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any experiences with this, you can put them down below, and let's create an open dialogue with each other, and maybe we'll talk about different topics in the future. And I hope you enjoyed it. I love you guys, and this is Toilet John, signing out.